What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today we're going to talk about the Doge dividend checks. Whatever happened to the Doge stimulus checks, dividend checks? We don't hear anything about this $5,000 anymore. Why is that? So we're going to talk a little bit about that on this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. If you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can also send me an email. You can send that email to david@thetecshow.com. So if you guys have questions, if you guys have concerns, if you want to send me a future video topic, you can do that. Just send me a link to an article or a link to a video. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this dividend check, this $5,000. And if you guys remember, this was just about 4 months ago, 3-4 months ago. We heard a CEO that came out and said, you know, it'd be great with all this money that we're saving, all this waste, fraud, and abuse that we're able to uncover, if we gave some of that money back to the American people. They were talking about 20%. Give 20% back to the American people. So the ultimate goal was to save $2 trillion. However, they were not able to save $2 trillion. And Elon Musk, who was running at the time, heading up Doge, he said that we're not going to be able to do $2 trillion. That was initially, okay, and this was months back. And then they changed that, and they said, okay, well, $1 trillion. Our target now is $1 trillion. And so we waited a couple months, and then Elon Musk came out again, said we're not going to be able to do $1 trillion. He said right now we're at about 150 billion, and we'll probably be around that number. And I just checked the latest tracker, and I'll show you guys that at the end of this video. And just a spoiler alert here, they're not even close to 500 billion, let alone 1 trillion. So that's what the talk was. You save 2 trillion. Initially, if they were able to save 2 trillion, they would be able to take 20% of that, $400 billion, and then send that out to the American people. It wasn't going to be everyone. They were talking about households would receive $5,000, and tax-paying households is what they were focused on. So now what happens? Because let me show you this article. And this article is coming from Newsweek, and it says Donald Trump stimulus check 2025, what Musk exit means for Doge dividend. So it goes on to just talk about kind of lays out what the dividend checks are, and I already kind of explained that to you guys. But you also have the press secretary, and I want to show you this clip because I thought this was interesting what she said here. So let's play this.
Elon Musk is leaving. Do you have an updated leadership structure for who is leading the group? Is Russ Vought involved? And what is its new mission now, if any?
Well, the entire cabinet is involved, and I spoke to the president about it this morning, and the entire cabinet understands the need to cut government waste, fraud, and abuse, and each cabinet secretary at their respective agencies is committed to that. That's why they were working hand in hand with Elon Musk, and they'll continue to work with the respective Doge employees who have onboarded as political appointees at all of these agencies. So surely the mission of Doge will continue, and many Doge employees are now political appointees and employees of our government, and to the best of my knowledge, all of them intend to stay and continue this important work.
Is there a Doge leader taking the place of Mr. Musk?
Well, again, the Doge leaders are each and every member of the president's cabinet and the president himself, who is wholeheartedly committed to cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from our government.
I'm telling you, when it came to this whole waste, fraud, and abuse, I already knew when we started hearing all this waste, fraud, and abuse, we're going to find the waste, fraud, and abuse. It's going to be millions or trillions of dollars. I knew when they started talking about this, it was going to be a problem. And you heard that response. So there's nobody that's going to be heading up Doge. Nobody's going to be running Doge anymore. So you had Elon Musk doing it. Now you're not going to have anyone doing it. So you have people who are working for Doge, but they don't have anyone to report to other than the different agencies. And that's basically what she's saying. So you have all these different agencies, and they're going to let Doge know what they need to know, I guess. But who really, I mean, Doge is its own little entity there. And that's the whole reason why they wanted to have Doge come into place, because they were saying that Congress is not going to do anything. So we're going to have Doge come in there, find the waste, fraud, abuse, and then report that back to Congress. But you still need to have someone who's directing those people who are working for Doge. How many companies do you know, successful companies, that don't have a CEO? I can't think of any successful company that doesn't have someone at the top that is directing what goes on. And then also you have someone at the top generally so they can make sure things are getting done and hold people accountable if things aren't getting done. Now, if you're just going to spread these people from Doge throughout all the different agencies, that's not going to work. You don't have Doge then. There's no reason for Doge. Why not just hire those people on to these different agencies? And so it really doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, and I never knew as far as the pay. Are they paying these people who are working for Doge? I would imagine they're not working for free. So if they are paying them, then where are they getting their paychecks from? Obviously from the American people. The government's paying them. But this is really, a really strange situation here where you have the head leave and then you don't replace that person. That doesn't make any sense to me. And you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. But all in all, looking at stimulus checks, will we see stimulus checks in the future? At this point, no. I don't think we're going to see anything. Now, we have an election season next year, 2026. That's all you're going to be hearing about is the midterm election. And we know Democrats are going to try to take back the Senate. They're going to try to take back the House. So there's going to be a lot of attention on the congressional races. And generally, if you go back in history, the opposing party will take at least the House or the Senate. They could take both. So we'll just have to see. And we saw that with Biden. When Biden was elected, Democrats controlled the House, they controlled the Senate and the presidency. And then in the midterm election, that's when the House went back to the Republicans. So we'll have to see if we see that in 2026. But it's unfortunate. And the reason I'm talking about it's an election year, we could see Republicans try to do something, because when it came to this $5,000 dividend check, when it was posted by the CEO on X, Elon Musk picked it up and said, that sounds like a good idea. I'm going to talk to the president about that. And then the president came out and said, that sounds like a good idea. So now they're on record saying that they want this stimulus check for the American people. So there's a potential next year, even though we don't have the money, there's a potential that Congress might say, look, this is an election year. We're going to have to do something. We made this promise, so we're going to have to figure out some kind of way to send out these dividend checks. Now, the promise was $5,000 per household. I don't think they'll be anywhere close to that if they're even talking about some type of stimulus. And so let's go and take a look at the Doge Tracker here. So Doge Tracker right now is showing $180 billion saved, and that says estimated. Okay, so this is savings that they're saying, but they haven't been able to itemize everything. If you go down and you look at some of this and you run these numbers, it's probably not going to come up to 180 billion. It's going to be less than that. And the reason for that is because they're saying that they're going to be saving all this money, but at this point, I think they're calculating. They're looking at things that they could potentially save money on, not things that they've already saved money on. Okay, and so that's something that's going to need to be corrected, because what we're looking at right now, these numbers are not going to be accurate. And so we'll have to see what happens in the future, but this is nowhere close to the even 1 trillion that they were saying later down the road, the 2 trillion initially and then the 1 trillion later down the road. So the reality of seeing a stimulus check in 2025, I don't think that's going to happen. In 2026, it's possible, but then you also need to think about this big, beautiful bill that they're moving through Congress right now. This big, beautiful bill is a spending bill. It's going to add, this is the CBO saying this, it's going to add about $2.4 trillion to our national debt over a 10-year span. And so are they really going to pass this big bill, big spending bill, and then have the stomach to pass another bill, another spending bill in 2026? I don't know. I don't know if they would do that, but for some Republicans, these fiscal hawks, I don't think they would go for it. Now, could Democrats come on board and say, yes, we want to provide this stimulus check for the American people? That's possible. But are you going to upset some of those people that are saying, look, we shouldn't be adding to our national debt, and we continue to do it year after year? And so this is going to be one of those things where you pass the big, beautiful bill, and that's probably all you're going to pass in the next 2 years. And it could be in the next 4 years, realistically. And so I want to know what you guys think about this. What do you think about politicians making promises or saying that they endorse something or they want something to move forward and then just forget about it? Because even though President Trump, it wasn't his idea, he said, this sounds like a good idea. And so why isn't he pushing for that? We have a big, beautiful bill sitting there right now. It's a spending bill. They could add to that bill and move forward with some type of dividend checks. But they're not. They're not talking about that. But you don't have the president saying, look, this is something that would be good for the American people. I said that I think that it was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. Let's move forward with it. You don't see that. And so it's time for the American people to wake up. When it comes to politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, that say things that they don't follow through with, that shouldn't be acceptable. And it's acceptable because people, they don't do anything about it. And you might say, well, President Trump's not running for re-election, so it doesn't matter. Congress, they're running for re-election. And they're the legislators. They're the ones that create these bills. You can hold them accountable. And we did, to be fair. Speaker Johnson said he doesn't think it's a good idea. But that's when you hold Speaker Johnson accountable. You don't think it's a good idea? I do think it's a good idea. I want to get someone in that leadership position, the speaker position, that also thinks it's a good idea. That's when you make that change. That's when you vote that person out of office because they're not there representing you. What they do think is a good idea is the 2017 tax cuts, the tax cuts that help mostly the rich. They think that's a good idea, and they want to make that permanent. But when it comes to some of the other tax cuts, they're not going to be permanent. When it comes to tax cuts like the no tax on tips, when it comes to the no tax on overtime, that's only 3 years. But you want to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. And then you don't want to even look at these dividend checks that would help millions of people that are in the middle class, working class, and the poor. And so something has to change. And I think we are the ones that have to make that change because these politicians are going to continue to do this. If they can say, this is going to happen, we're going to do this for you, Social Security, I talk about this all the time, we're going to eliminate taxes on people receiving Social Security benefits. That was a promise. Do we see that in this big, beautiful bill? I haven't seen it yet. They're talking about some tax, $4,000 tax deduction, which is not going to help very many people. But they're not talking about eliminating taxes for people receiving Social Security benefits. And sure, they're saying, the Senate's saying, well, we can't do it because of the Byrd rule and all this. They could do something else. They can provide some relief for people receiving Social Security benefits, but they're not even looking at that. They're not even talking about that. And so they're just making promises and not following through with those promises. That is a huge problem. And that's when you need to stand up. American people, we need to stand up and say, look, you made these promises and you're not keeping them. And there should be a consequence to that. Those people should be voted out of office. So I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.